Okay, so you know that feeling. Like you're absolutely dying of thirst, and there's water right there, right in front of you, but you just can't quite reach it. Well, sometimes trying to learn something really complex feels just like that. Especially, I think, with a new language. You see the goal, fluency, but actually getting there feels, yeah, overwhelming, almost impossible.
So today we're doing a deep dive into something designed to, well, quench that exact kind of thirst. It's an approach called Stories That Speak Learn English Through Stories.
Mm.
We've been digging through a whole bunch of notes and scripts you sent over about this program, and our mission really is to unpack how it works, what makes it tick.
Yeah, and what's really striking looking at these sources is how this Stories That Speak program seems to want to flip language learning on its head. It's presented as a real break from, the usual suspects, boring textbooks, endless grammar rules. Instead, it guides you using stories. The idea is to make learning English feel more natural, almost effortless, just by listening to a narrative. Okay, so let's unpack that core philosophy then. The sources make a pretty big claim, right? That they take timeless stories and turn them into your personal English classroom. How exactly does that work? How does a story become a classroom? What's the thinking behind that?
That's a great question, because it really is different from a typical classroom setup. The aim, from what we're seeing in the materials, is to make acquiring English feel inherent and fluid,
Right.
less like you're actively studying and more like you're just absorbing it. It really taps into this idea of comprehensible input. You're hearing language you can mostly understand because of the context. So the story itself does the heavy lifting, making it feel less, academic,
Yeah.
more intuitive.
Right, right. That makes sense. You learn through context, not just rules. And this is where, for me, it gets really interesting. The role of listening. The sources say listening isn't just passive here. It's described as a fundamental and central component. Like it's the engine driving the whole thing. So what does that actually sound like? What's this immersive listening experience they talk about?
Oh, it's quite detailed, actually. Listening is definitely the main way you learn. You're specifically encouraged to, this is a quote, close your eyes if you can and let me paint you a picture. And they help paint that picture using subtle nature sounds,
Like what?
like gentle winds, maybe some distant birds, things like that. And also specific sound effects tied to the story. Maybe the sound of wings flapping or small splashes of water.
Ah, okay. To make it more vivid.
Exactly. It's all about creating these vivid mental images, getting you more deeply engaged on a sensory level. Even the narrator's voice changes. It apparently gets more dramatic during story climax to sort of guide your emotional journey with the story. It's trying to engage more parts of your brain, basically, build stronger connections than just hearing words.
So you're not just hearing it, you're almost seeing it, feeling it in your mind, like a little movie.
Yeah, I can see how connecting language to an experience rather than just like a definition on a page would make it stick much better. Intuitively, that feels right.
Okay, let's shift to vocabulary then. The sources make a point that this isn't about rote memorization. It's designed to be natural and engaging. So how do they pull that off? How do you learn new words naturally here?
Well, it seems to be a multi-step process, and it's pretty clever. First, there's what they call an auditory preview. You hear the new essential English words, things like thirsty, pitcher, pebbles, clever, drop from the crow story we'll talk about. But the instruction is key. Just let them wash over you. No pressure to memorize right away.
Okay, just exposure first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then comes the detailed explanation. Each word gets a really slow, clear pronunciation. Like they break it down. Thirsty, pitcher, pebbles. Okay. And they even give specific pronunciation tips like noticing how your tongue touches your teeth for the TH in thirsty. That level of detail.
Focusing on the physical act of saying it.
Right. And crucially, they give examples of how people actually use the words, like, I'm so thirsty, or asking someone, could you bring a pitcher of water to the table? Real world context. But here's the most important part, I think. These new words are then woven directly into the narrative of the story. So you don't just learn thirsty in isolation. You hear about the crow being desperately, desperately thirsty, or finding a tall clay pitcher and dropping small, smooth pebbles into it. You encounter the words in action.
Ah, so the story reinforces the meaning.
Precisely. And then finally, there's an interactive practice bit. You're encouraged to actually repeat aloud the words and phrases. Things like just saying thirsty or a full sentence. The crow is very thirsty. The goal isn't perfection. It's explicitly just have fun with the sounds to help internalize them.
It sounds like making new English friends, doesn't it? Rather than just items on a list. You meet them, see what they do in the story, then you practice talking with them. That feels like a much more human way to learn. Now, you mentioned the crow story. That seems central in these sources, the crow and the pitcher. And it carries this core message. Smart thinking solves any problem. How does that old fable become a metaphor for learning English?
Yeah, it's used really effectively. The setup is perfect, right? The crow is desperately, desperately thirsty. We can all relate to that feeling of urgent need. But the water is so low. There's a tiny bit at the bottom of this tall pitcher. It's impossible to reach. That captures that feeling of frustration of being stuck.
Exactly, that initial hopelessness.
Exactly. But then the crow doesn't give up. It observes, sees these small, smooth pebbles, and gets a brilliant, clever idea
Mhm.
and starts dropping them in meticulously. Pebble after pebble after pebble. Each one makes a tiny splash.
And the key thing the sources pull out is the persistence and incremental steps, isn't it? It's little by little, bit by bit, slowly raising the water level. That core lesson, a clever mind solves any problem one small step at a time. It's powerful just on its own. But applying it to language learning, that's smart.
It really is, because that's where the pebble in the pitcher analogy comes in,
Mm.
and it connects everything beautifully. Reaching fluency in English can feel just as overwhelming, just as impossible to reach as that water for the crow. So the program directly says, every single English word you learn is like dropping a pebble in the pitcher.
Ah, okay. I see the
And
connection.
it's not just words, they expand it. Every story you listen to, every conversation you have, every mistake you make and learn from those are all pebbles.
Mm.
Each small, consistent effort is a pebble, gradually raising your level.
So what this deep dive is really showing us is that the program frames learning English not as needing some giant leap. You don't suddenly just reach the water. It's about the consistent act of dropping one pebble at a time. And the sources really hammer this home. Those individual efforts, one by one, they are raising your English level, even if you can't see dramatic progress every single day. It's about trusting that process. It's quite a profound lesson from that simple crow story, isn't it? And as the sources show, it's not just for crows or even just for English learners. It really does speak to your own journey, whatever you're trying to learn or achieve.
Absolutely. The constant thread in these materials is that listening, engaging, practicing each action is like dropping a pebble in the pitcher. It directly contributes to raising your English level.
Mm.
But think about that metaphor more broadly. Beyond English, how could adopting that patient, pebble by pebble mindset change how you approach some other huge challenge in your life? That big goal that feels completely out of reach right now? What if the answer isn't waiting for a massive breakthrough? What if it's just about starting to drop those small, consistent pebbles, focusing on those tiny actions over some grand, maybe impossible leap?
That's definitely something to mull over. How many times have you felt stuck waiting for a miracle? Maybe the real path to mastering anything is just starting to drop those pebbles one by one. We hope this deep dive leaves you thinking about how that small, consistent effort, that incremental progress could unlock surprising victories wherever you choose to apply it.